All right, so now we are in Photoshop, and this is where the manipulation process will begin. So we're done with this step. Now we're moving on to this fourth step here, which is manipulation in Photoshop, where we'll be creating a composite, we'll be adding some filters, effects, we're cleaning the image. So let's go to Photoshop. We've already opened these two as layers from Lightroom, and just again, got these two images. So what we're going to do is right now, we're just going to hide this layer, which was the main image that we edited. Right now, we want to just work on the layer which has these birds, and what we basically have to do is we have to select these birds and then put them on to this image, the original image that we have edited. So let's first of all, let's zoom in to this image, okay, and then we'll have to make a selection. So let's zoom in more. I'm pressing Control plus to zoom in, or Command and plus on Mac, and these days of course is very easy because we've got, in the latest versions, we've started to get this object selection tool, which is just easy because you simply select this. And I'm also going to show you, if you don't have that, if you're using an older version, what to do. But with the object selection, you simply demarcate the boundary where the object is, and it just automatically selects that. Okay, if you don't have that, no problem. You can even use the good old quick selection tool. Just make the size smaller using the square bracket keys and select it like this. Right, I'm going to use the object selection tool because I have that, and it works great for places like this where you have something really different from the object, like very contrasty, like we just have a plain sky and the object is of a different color. Makes it very, very easy for Photoshop. And similarly, I also have to select this. So remember, when you're doing selections, if you've done my basic Photoshop course, whenever you want to add to a selection, what do you press? You press Shift. So I'm going to, before I make this selection, make sure you press the Shift key, and then you do the same. So both of them are selected. Now, what is the problem with these selections right now? If I zoom in more, obviously they are not accurate selections, right? There, as you can see, some things are coming out, so they're not refined. So if you want to just refine these selections, you can see this part is also left here. So what we're going to do is we're going to use select and mask by going to the select menu. We're going to go to select and mask. You can also use refine edge tool in the older Photoshop. That's what select and mask was called. So if you have older version, use refine tool edge. I think that was the name, but I'm going to use select and mask. So I'm going to click on this, and then what we are basically going to see is that either you'll be seeing this, whatever you selected, as red, or you'll be seeing everything else as red and this in its normal form. So that you can change from here. I like to keep the color red to indicate whatever I selected before, okay? So that means in this indicates, you can either select this. Usually this is by default, but I like to do the opposite because this kind of confuses me. Whatever I have selected, I like it to be shown by red, okay? But it's up to you. It's totally up to you. So but I like this, and you can see right now our selection has some things missing, right? So what we can do is, we've got this refine edge brush tool. We're going to just take this, and you can either decrease or increase the size of this, but you can do that from here, you can do that from the square bracket keys, but right now you just simply have to run this around the edge like this. Just do it. Okay, hold down your mouse button and just run it all over the edge. And what you're going to see is, it's going to do a fantastic job of just getting those things. Can you see? It has added that to the selection, the things that were moving out. So if I go to undo, you'll be able to see the difference. So this was the selection before, which was just missing out those important details. And if I just redo, it just selects that. Similarly, we're going to go on, and we're going to be using select and mask quite a lot in this course when we replace skies and all these things. This just gives you a good way to get an accurate selection, and this is done by our original selection. So that's why it's very important to get your original selection as good as possible, because when you run this refine edge tool, how Photoshop works is that it's just seeing, okay, what did this guy select originally? What was the thing that this photographer selected originally? That means when we're using the refine edge tool, Photoshop will try its best to add things which were similar to what you selected, okay? If you didn't understand that, no problem at all. So just use this, and boom, we have a good selection, and simply we're just going to click OK. We're done with the selections, okay? So we've got a fairly good selections, and now what we're going to do is, just a bit of it is still coming out, these areas like those. So I probably, actually, this is my fault. I should have probably used more than 400th of a second to capture these birds. Like I said, I was in a great hurry that time. Probably my noise also was going high, the ISO value. But if this was even more sharper, we wouldn't have this a bit of blur or whatever we are seeing here, okay? And it'll be much easier, but that's okay. I'll also show you right now a way to just add this also into the selection. But to get this through refine edge, this little faint thing here will probably be even tough using the select and mask tool and the refine edge tool, but that's okay. This bird is so far away, it's not really going to matter. But right now, first of all, let's try to get this bird onto the original photograph. So how are we going to do that is, first of all, let's take this photo in which we were selecting these birds. Let's put this on top, okay? So now the selection is top. Now, this other image that we had, the original image, so let me just zoom out, okay? So this is the image in which we selected the birds, and if I just hide this, this is the image that we edited in Lightroom first, right? So what we're going to do is, with this selection selected and this layer selected, the top one where with the birds, we're just going to open up a layer mask. So when you open up a layer mask using this icon, what happens is that anything that was selected in that image in which you're opening up the layer mask, that is automatically turned as white or painted as white, and the remaining part, as you can see here, is turned black. And if you've already done my basic Photoshop course, you already know how layer masking works. Anything that is black will show the down part. So black is like a hole through which you're seeing the down image. So whatever we are seeing here, except for the selection, is coming from this image. Okay, and the only white parts in this image are the ones that we selected, which is the bird. So we are only able to take the bird from the image that was the fast shutter speed image. Okay, so if I really zoom in here, okay, let's see how good a job our selection did. So how we can verify that is, if you hide this top layer, you can see there's no problem of discoloration, there's no problem of all these things happening. You can't see any boundary separation here. So this is a really, really good edit, right? And otherwise, you know, if you manually try to select it, some of the areas outside can probably show a bit of discoloration because the two might not exactly be the same, though we did sync the settings, but still, okay? So you can see this is a fairly good selection and a fairly good composite. But if you really want to go to that perfectionist level, and let's say you say that, Kush, but those little motion blur things outside, they were not as good. And how you can verify that is, if I right now temporarily hide this layer mask by right clicking and clicking on disable layer mask, this is the original. And can you see we're just losing that stuff near the boundary, right? If you just keep an eye, boom, we're just losing that chunkiness near the boundary. Now, to be frank, I wouldn't really worry about this if I was actually editing this image, because this would border on being perfect or perfectionism. Okay, and it's not good to do that, because then the editing becomes a big headache for you. But still, I want to show you. Okay, so I'm going to enable the layer mask, and what we simply have to do is we just have to make this white, right? So we just have to basically paint white on it. If we do that, this will start to get added, because remember, white starts to show whatever is on the top layer or the layer in which the layer mask is selected. So I can take my paintbrush, I can make sure the color is set to white, and then just at the edges, just paint it like this. Can you see it starts to come back? Like I said, I probably wouldn't do this, but if you are really, you know, if in this case you want to be perfect. So let us do it for one bird. Okay, so now let's disable the layer mask and see. Yeah, still some of it left, but that's okay. We've still been able to at least add a bit of that chunkiness to it. So I'll do it for one bird. To be frank, here it's not really required because the birds are very, very far away. So let's see again, before and after. That's fantastic. So we're done with the composite. Now adding filters and effects, I don't think this particular shot requires any filters or effects. Later on in the other images, when we'll be editing them, we probably might be using, we'll definitely be using filters and effects, okay? Not in this case. The last part is cleaning the image, which is best done in Photoshop. Cleaning the image just means if you have something which is like a distraction in a shot, you can probably just remove it at this step. And how you can do that is, you can just select your, I like to use the spot healing brush tool for this. And let's say we want to just get rid of some of the dirty things that are here. Okay, now you might not want to get, because this also looks good. I'm just giving you an example. Let's say something like this. Maybe these were some trash that was lying here and you just want to remove it. So you can use this, just click and it's gone. And of course, just pay attention that I have selected this layer. Okay, because this is the majority of the layer which is being seen. So when you're using your spot healing brush tool, you have to select the layer on which, when you're clicking on it, it should be the same layer. Because from this layer only the birds are taken, okay? The rest of the image is coming from here. Let's see, maybe you can see this is a pretty good tool. This removes things very fast. And of course, this little ship here, if you saw before, I usually would have loved to have this little boat or this ferry, I think. But it's too far away, so it's not actually adding to the scene. It's just serving like a distraction. So I'll just remove this. And I think that's it. So if you see this, then this looks pretty good. Once again, original added the birds in a flawless manner. And I think it's absolutely fantastic. We're going to now, so we've cleaned the image also. This really did not require too much cleaning. We're going to go back over to Lightroom now. Okay, so how you do that is, you just simply press, simply save this. That's it. You just click on save. And then if you open up Lightroom again, what you'll find is that this image here automatically comes. So initially, you remember only 2 of the images were there that we opened, but now the saved image that we just produced in Photoshop automatically is added to your thumbnail preview like this. The composite is already added, and we can simply do the same things. We can now go to develop and we can start working on this composite. So this is such a seamless flow. You go from Lightroom to Photoshop, you save the images there, and boom, you come back and you start editing your composite again. So what we're going to exactly do in Lightroom with these steps, we'll do that in the next video. Bye for now.